Pastor David Burt, and all day long today we have been celebrating 150 years of ministry here at the Heart of Longmont. I'm so glad you've been joining us for all of our festivities. I'm really curious to find out how we got to where we are today, a century and a half of ministry to the Longmont area. You want to find out with me? Come on, let's go check it out.
This is the story and the history of our church. Longmont's First United Methodist Church is profoundly rooted in the Longmont community. From the early settlers and subsequent Chicago, Colorado colony to the present day, the development of our church closely parallels the growing Longmont community. Local pioneers, with ministerial guidance from circuit riders, held services in their cabins down by the river and later in the schoolhouse. The area was first served by the St. Vrain Circuit and later the Burlington Circuit. In the spring of 1871, when Longmont was founded, these Methodists discontinued their Burlington services and convened their first quarterly conference. R.J. Van Valkenburg was serving the circuit at the time and is formally credited with delivering the first sermon in Longmont history. Likewise, Longmont's first Sunday school was conducted under his guidance. Services were held in Library Hall until a building could be completed in 1872. The first church building of two-story frame construction doubled as a business establishment. Services were held in the upstairs hall. The lower floor was rented out for business. The early building burned in the 1880s, but by then had been sold and a new church constructed. This new church, dedicated on May 27, 1883, was built on Terry Street between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Alberg Funeral Chapel currently occupies this building. By 1902, in less than 20 years since the move to Terry Street and its first 32 years of charter, membership had exceeded the 300 mark. Larger quarters were again needed. Groundbreaking ceremonies were held in May of 1903 at the corner of 4th Avenue and Terry Street, where the Times Call newspaper building stands today. The first of two additions, Wesley Hall, was added in 1924 to accommodate the growing membership. It also served as the community recreation center. According to people who remember this time, basketball was highly ranked among favorite activities.
Well, I was baptized in the church, in the old church on 4th and Terry. So, and went through confirmation, Sunday school, and got married in the church. I even took organ lessons from the organist at the old church. The church that Albert's used now as their place was before the one at 4th and Terry. And the parsonage at that time was on 4th and Pratt. I spent hours there. That's where we had our confirmation classes. Was at the church, at the parsonage.
I grew up in this church, and I was actually baptized in the church on 4th and Terry Street. I remember a little bit about that church. I remember going upstairs for Sunday school classes, and downstairs, which was a huge hall where the adult Sunday school was, or we would have meals.
Late 1945 saw the close of World War II, and the reluctance to spend money here at home was reversed. For almost a decade, all the nooks and crannies of the church in Wesley Hall had been overflowing from the Sunday school and various religious education programs. 4 major capital improvements were undertaken. Excavation and completion of a basement below the sanctuary, purchase and installation of a pipe organ, installation of a modern gas heating plant, and enlargement and improvement of the sanctuary. With these improvements, the Fourth and Terry location served the needs of our congregation for most of another decade. Also, during this time, beginning in 1920, when a beautiful house on the corner of 4th and Pratt Street was purchased, we were able to provide a comfortable home for our ministers and their families. This house was sold in 1963 when another parsonage was purchased.
Now, you were born into the church on Terry.
Right. I had no choice. My parents were members, had been members here. My mother was born into this church. Her father was also. My great-great-grandfather and great-great-grandmother came here in, I think, the early 1880s because he had TB that he'd gotten during the Civil War. And he died within a few weeks after they got here. And she was a widow with 2 boys. And she got married soon after to George McIntosh, who had the farm out on Highway 66. And they were members of this church.
And we used to have picnics out there by the street, the old church. It was right on the street anyway.
Yeah.
We'd have picnics out there in the yard. And Parker, Wayne,
Yeah.
he was the one that kept all the little ones from going in the street. And yeah, he was kind of the babysitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The old church, you know, I can remember all the groceries that went through that kitchen. I mean, you know, there was always something going on, and all the sinks on the east wall, and the big old coffee urns. You know, they had muslin sacks. They put 10 pounds of coffee in it, make 50 gallons of coffee or whatever it was. I don't know, but the smell of that kitchen, I can still smell it. We had all of our scout meetings there. My dad was a scoutmaster. Then when we got to Explorer Scouts, we went to the upper room, which was above the kitchen. Every Saturday, when we was at Scouts, every Saturday, I'd go to the church in Don's office and fold the pamphlets for Sunday morning. We had the old mimeograph. Don would run them off, you know, and then we'd fold them, and he'd get after us because we were wiping the ink too quick, and they were smearing, or they were folded crooked, you know. And yeah.
A driving force behind yet another move came in 1954 when a survey by the Iliff School of Theology noted that, quote, although the membership was composed of exceptionally high educational abilities and interest, the church lacks facilities to care for the varied needs of its large membership, end quote. Rising to the challenge, our congregation initiated a complete relocation building project. 5 acres of farmland were purchased at the present church's site, and plans were drawn for a building budgeted at $350,000. The groundbreaking, fundraising, and construction of the present building are within the memory of many current members of the congregation.
We moved after I got married.
Okay.
In 1954, so it was just shortly after that they started talking about the new church. But my dad was very involved in it. I heard all about it.
Okay.
There was lively vocal debate and disagreement over the new site's location. Church officials received many complaints from older members of the church because the proposed site was way out in the country, and they would never be able to attend religious services. This resulted in the organization of a free taxi service by car owners, so anyone needing transportation to any church service or meeting could call the church office and request assistance.
We lived on a farm northeast of Longmont off Highway 66. And so when the church decided to move to its current location on 11th Avenue, we were thrilled because it was much closer to us. We were already out in the boonies and out in the country.
At the consecration service and open house for the new church, held on November 22nd, 1959, parishioners were greeted by the special stained glass balcony window. Unseen by the congregation prior to that day, the miracle window, designed and built in Germany, was installed overnight before services, much to everyone's delight. Astonishingly, the mortgage on this building was retired in only 10 years. How richly God blessed us in making it possible to overcome our indebtedness so quickly. Since 1959, the building has undergone several renovations. Major construction, undertaken in 1980, provided us with an additional education unit and new music room behind the sanctuary. In 1990, the narthex and gallery were enlarged, providing added room for Sunday morning fellowship and enhancing the church's welcoming atmosphere. Of note, the very special stained glass windows now hanging in the gallery were almost destroyed when the Terry Street Church was demolished.
The church in Longmont, my dad helped build that new church. It was quite an undertaking. I had the privilege of trying to rescue the old windows from the old church that were just stored away and slowly crumbling. And so we put them together and put them into the new church out in the hallways. And then later, I guess they had someone come in and really fix them up properly.
Well, I remember Don Gruters was here both at the old church and at this church, and he oversaw the move the building of this building. And at his, I don't know, was his retirement or there was a party in honor of him, and people got up and told about their memories of him. And one of the things someone said was there was somebody who always argued about everything, disagreed with everything that the board was looking at for the building. And this person said to Don Gruters, "Why do you put up with him? Why don't you get him off the board and get somebody that's not so difficult?" And Don said, "If I listen to his arguments, then I'll know what anyone else in the church might be saying who was unhappy with what we do, and will know how to deal with it." So I thought he was just such a wise, kind man, and he's the main minister I remember from my childhood.
He would come and knock on your door and he'd visit you. Well, there wasn't that many members like there is now, you know. And they did a lot of house visiting at those times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don Gruters was
Pretty much the whole time.
pretty much the whole time I graduated with Ronnie. And Jay was, I don't know what, a couple of years behind us. I had scout meetings or Cub Scout meetings at Don's house, just west of the church there.
I didn't realize at the time how good he was at what he did. Typical kid. But in looking back and talking about him to people, I see what a really fine man he was and what he contributed there.
Through the devotion and efforts of countless members of this congregation, the ministries of the church have responded to needs of people in the church, the Longmont community, and worldwide. Music ministry has been a strong tradition in the Methodist Church, and from the earliest days has been superb. An account relating the dedication services of our first building on May 27, 1883, indicates that the singing was led by a select choir consisting of 5 ladies and 4 gentlemen. It is not too much to say in praise of the music that we have never heard its equal in Longmont.
And I especially remember singing with Aurelia Anderson. She loved to sing with kids, and she would
She was so pretty, and she had gray hair that she wore back in a bun. And she would teach us songs, and she always did like this to show us the tones.
Almost from the beginning, music for services has been enhanced by marvelous organs and gifted musicians. One of 3 pipe organs remaining in Longmont, our present organ first saw duty in the 4th and Terry Church during 1947. With additions and modifications to fit the existing sanctuary, this wonderful instrument has been in service for almost 50 years. Wesleyans, a women's singing group formed by the United Methodist Women in 1974, sang periodically for worship services and performed a special Christmas program for the church and various community groups. Since handbells were first rung for Easter services in 1977, many have become acquainted with the joy of ringing handbells.
We joined the church in 1963, so we've been probably in that church for 57 years.
You've seen a lot of changes.
A lot of changes.
Yeah.
A lot of ministers come and go, yeah.
We come out here and joined the church in 1968. Just
68, okay.
1 or 2 years.
Now, you started with the church, you said in the 60s?
60, I think it was 64, 65. Reverend Rice was our minister at that time. I know one night my husband and Bernard Lewis, they went up, and my husband was an electrician, and of course Bernard was a carpenter. So they had fun together, and they went up and did part of the wiring on that church.
Oh, okay.
So some of the wiring was done by my husband.
In the little chapel, Bernard built the first with the red curtain on it. What do they call it? Altar. Is that called the small? He built that first altar that they got it back in there. And he and Bob Gwynn, he helped Bob Gwynn teach a Sunday school class of teenagers, as I probably mentioned before. And he'd shake his head. He said, they don't pay any attention, those teenagers. He thought that was terrible when they were supposed to be quiet and listening to the Sunday school teachers.
Christian education has been an important facet in the life and work of the church. Earliest records tell that as early as 1865, when the Burlington Circuit was formed, there were 3 Sunday schools with 7 officers and teachers and 50 scholars. A union Sunday school was organized at once when Longmont was founded, with a full contingency of officers. Years later, Ben Christner, the church's new minister, notes that the first thing attended to as part of his ministry was to care for the Christian education program. And today, we still host the Wild Plum program, an early education program for needy children. Our church's library has become a special resource for enhancing church educational programs. The early library, dating to 1865, and the Burlington Circuit, boasted 300 volumes. In 1995, the ever-expanding library was moved to its present location and holds a multitude of books and multimedia resources.
My grandma, Essie Malchow, was in the same class as Margaret Patterson. And you might know that name because we have the Margaret Patterson Scholarship now that provides education for several students every year.
When I was I think maybe it was when I was still in junior high, we met upstairs in the junior high room in the education wing. When I was a little older, we were meeting in Wesley Hall, and we'd often have a meal. it was Sunday night. We would have Sunday night supper there. We would sing, and it was often Nancy Ashbaugh and then Virginia Anderson, who was Aurelia Anderson's daughter, would lead us singing.
We were sponsors here for quite a while. Jean Liska was the youth director at that time. Then there were different ones, but we stayed with it until, we just felt like we were getting a little too old. But we did go on a youth trip with them up into Wyoming that we took it was called a mystery trip. The kids didn't know where they were going, but we did. But they had prepared a musical, and we presented it in churches. We were gone about a week. It was quite a trip.
How long you been with the church?
It really began being with the church when I retired from the ministry. Then I was in that Sunday school class, the Seekers, I think they're called. I've forgotten now.
Justice Seekers.
I've been in that class ever since.
Well,
And it's been a wonderful education because we've studied some of these great authors and people who are great thinkers. Felt at home there. The first time I went to the church, I went to that Sunday school class and have been going to the same class ever since. Because I enjoyed their looking at new things and new ideas and discovering who we are.
okay.
And who we may think God is.
For a number of years, I taught the Disciple Bible Study, a 4-year class dealing with both the Old and the New Testaments. And again, what a joy to see individuals grow in their understanding of the Old and New Testaments, but also to grow in their Christian faith.
Several ministers and leaders of churches, mainline churches within the Longmont area, took what was a real need at the time of providing food for families in need and occasional lodging that was stretching all of the pastors in their capacity. And we began to talk about pooling resources in a community way, and that was the beginning of our center. And after many years, our center has become so much more than I think any of us envisioned at the time.
Women's groups formed early in our church's history and have been known by many names. Ladies' Aid Society, Young Matrons, Women's Foreign Missionary Society, Women's Home Missionary Society, Women's Society of Christian Service, Wesleyan Service Guild, and at present, United Methodist Women. Supporting missions has been of prime importance to the women in these organizations, and extensive fundraising activities have been directed to this end.
We had what we call circles now, ladies' circles.
Yeah.
But we used to meet in different homes I think ours was on Thursday night. And I've been with the ladies group way back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And as I said, we met on Thursday night, my group. And then the ladies that worked during the week, they had their group that met on Saturday, the way I understand it.
We weren't too involved in the church. We just attended it, but we didn't, as far as in the organizations we weren't. I did belong to the women's organization for a while.
Uh-huh.
And then after Ralph was gone, I had to go back to work. We did go to Bible school and when it was so that we could. The kids went to Bible school and I did help a little. Wasn't one of the teachers, but could do little things, to help out.
On the occasion of the 125th anniversary year, Pastor Granville Smith said the following: "I wonder what this church will look like upon the occasion of her 150th anniversary. Well, in the 25 years from that time to this, we have continued to serve our church family, our community, and our missions. We spruced up the church office and installed new carpet in the gallery. The pillars were painted with inspiring quotes and pictures by Pastor Carol Lilly. We got a new roof. In the community, we were an emergency shelter for Hope, the homeless outreach providing encouragement program, and we continue to provide meals for them. We gave literally tons of food to the R Center, and we became a reconciling church. We support our missionary, Ken Cruz, in Cambodia. We added Heart of Longmont to our United Methodist Church name in 2015. In 2016, we entered the technological age and added Wi-Fi. This enabled us to continue church services during the 2020 pandemic, keeping our church family connected and vibrant.
What was your fondest memory of the church?
I think friends and singing in the choir and, just being there among friends.
All my church life has been in that church. But, I got a lot of memories of the church. A lot of good memories.
So my dad remembered joining this church as a 14-year-old boy, and he celebrated his 75th anniversary of membership here in January of 2006. He was always very grateful to the church and felt embraced by the church because they kept his membership, and my mother's too, during World War II when he was stationed around the country.
And I can remember Santa Claus come, Wesley Hall, they'd have their Santa Claus, he had to come, at Christmas time. Goodies for all the little kids, And of course I've had my 80th and my 90th birthday in the church.
Mm-hmm. Enjoy the celebration. Have a good next 150 years. You deserve it.
On the 150th anniversary of the church, I would like to congratulate the church on its longevity, and I hope it's around for another 150 years, and we look forward to maintaining our relationship with dear friends in Longmont. Thank you.
I think Dad would just say the best memory, other than any one single instance, was just all the good people, the friends, the fellowship, the potluck dinners, the time spent with some wonderful folks, and the cups of coffee on a Wednesday night.
This church has always been my second home, and probably always will be.
As I think back over those years, the part that I want to sort of remember and commend is the fact that the people of the Heart of Longmont were probably some of the most courageous of any of the churches I've served in 30 years. It takes courage to be willing to make changes in yourself in order to do the work of Jesus. And the people of Longmont were willing to do that. The people of the Heart of Longmont were willing to do that.
We're grateful for the time that we spend here. It gives us a chance to be nurtured in these years, and also a chance for our service to the community through the church. And I look forward to celebrating this 150th anniversary with people of the Heart of Longmont.
So it's great memories of the place. Thank you for having me be part of it.
This congregation has always given generously of her time, her talent, her treasure, ministering in many different ways. As God has blessed you, may God continue to bless others through you and your ministries.
Our church is small, but it's very welcoming, and I just think that anybody coming would be welcomed.
Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us on this very special day as we've been celebrating 150 years of ministry. And a special thank you to Ellie Akins and Bernice Gwynn for being with us for nearly 100 of those years themselves. Wonderful to have them. Now, we have got so many people that have been part of this special day and part of our ministry throughout the years. Musicians and former pastors and Sunday school teachers and United Methodist women leaders, and you name it. They have all been special and added to our rich history here at Longmont. Now, we're always looking forward to the future, and so we've got some wonderful youngsters that are coming up in our ranks too, especially Emily's great little twins. So we have got a great future ahead of us. We're looking forward to it. Thanks for being part of today's celebration, and we'll see you again soon. God bless.